Chapter 7 of the Big Ten Bible study, seeds grow into plants, which may be a little surprising for those of you that aren't in the gardening or farming. But yes, seeds grow into plants, whether you plant them and want them to grow into plants or whether they are what we call volunteer. But it takes seeds to grow plants. The seeds can be in the ground for a long period of time and then pop up, or they can die away every year. We're going to talk about you shall not murder, the sixth commandment. And it really is talking about the seeds we plant in our heart and how they affect our actions, our behavior. So if we start out, it's very simple, 4 words: you shall not murder. Jesus takes it a step up, and Jesus deepens the intent of God's character. God's character is shown in the 10 commandments. That's how we see God's character. And Jesus just deepens it in Matthew 5. You have heard that it is said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment, and whoever says to his brother, Reka, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Now those are just 3 different ways that we can be angry with our brothers, and we can call our brothers kind of a 4-letter word, or we can call our brother a fool. Now, if you think about it, a fool that has said in his heart, there is no God. They use the word fool in the Bible in a very serious way. We tend to use it in a humorous way sometimes. Oh, that was really foolish. But in the Bible, it's a lot more serious than just you did a foolish thing. When we start looking at murder, it's interesting to think about. I didn't grow up with TV, and I am not a movie watcher. I don't know if I could sit through a movie and not do anything. I just can't, because I didn't grow up that way. But I also am really careful to protect what I see, because it never leaves your mind. And I didn't grow up watching things. It's amazing the amount of murders a child watches and has seen between the movies and video games until they are an adult. We become very desensitized to it. So what is murder? Well, all killing is to take a life. I was about to say all murder is killing, but not all killing is murder. To kill something causes its death, whether it's you kill a plant, you kill an idea, you kill someone's hope. To kill something is to end its productivity, its life, its growing. Murder is a malice forethought. It's an unlawful act. And then manslaughter, to my understanding, is an excusable taking of a life. Homicide, there's just so much to do when you get into that. But we're not going to focus as much on the act of murder as we are going to focus on what happens in your heart that would lead you to be so angry you might. And if we can control it, if we can take every thought captive, if we can capture our thoughts, that changes how we treat people, how we look at people, how we live, how we think, which then affects the things in our heart that could lead someone to be so hateful, so angry, so upset that it would lead to murder. So, according to Jesus, murder begins in the heart. And that's not surprising, because most everything that we do begins in the heart. You've heard people say something that was maybe a little irrational or crude, and they go, oh, I don't know where that came from. And you go, yeah, it came from your heart. That's what you were thinking about. Anger grows from within. Something happens externally, and anger just starts seething, growing, germinating from within. Now, Ephesians 4:26 and 27 very simply says, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. And if we kept reading, the next verse is going to tell us, don't give a foothold to the devil. Now, I'm not a climber. I did do a bunch of climbing once. All you need is a little tiny crevasse or a little tiny place to put your fingers or your toes, and you can boost your whole body. Well, some people can boost their whole bodies up and take change their elevation. They can climb walls by just having these little teeny toeholds. And if we give a toehold to anger, if we give anger just a little bitty space to grow, a little bitty space to get into us, if we just give them a little part of our heart, that's all it needs. That's all Satan needs, is just a little bit of a place to get something boosted in. And then once it's got its weight, you can keep climbing up a wall. Once anger gets its weight into your heart, it starts developing other things. And it says, don't go to bed angry. Now, I kind of differ with the concept that people have said through the years is, if you have an argument, work it all out before you go to bed. It's like, sometimes it's best to sleep on it, to come up with calm, collected, thought out responses and let the emotions chill. Years and years ago at church, we were in this marriage seminary-like thing, and they said, find a story that the other person that you're talking with, that you're having a disagreement, can understand. Help them get into a story, and then they can see themselves in the story, and then they will understand maybe better what you're trying to say. And so it also talks about don't use the word fool angrily. And I'm trying to think of the words we might use for fool in our day, and a lot of them we couldn't say growing up. But it's any word that actually demeans the character of a person or makes them look bad, feel bad, or sound bad. So last time we talked about the honor of being born, the honor of family, the honor of older people, younger people, children, the honor of life itself. Honor your parents isn't just honoring a father and a mother. It's honoring the process of life, honoring those who bring life, and honoring all those who have life, from a child to a teenager, and they can be kind of hard to honor sometimes, to the grandparents. We are to honor who God gave life to and how God gave life to that, and it's a beautiful thing. So all 46 chromosomes are important to God. There's 23 pairs. So if we're taking it to some of our culture, the culture that takes a child's life before it's born, though that breaks the second commandment, because that becomes a god of self. Myself is more important than the unborn child. Honoring families, it tears apart the family. And then, of course, the sixth commandment, to not murder. So Matthew 5 also says, you have heard it said, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So we are taking God's character and deepening it. The point where we don't just do the letter of the law, we go deep to the intent of God's character in the law. So let's just take a thought here. Let's think about seeds. Seeds grow into plants. What does it take for a seed to grow into hatred, and then as much more than not just grow into hatred, but the heart would conceive to murder? So how do we keep those seeds from growing into that hatred that would do things that would harm another person? It's all subtle. It happens so simply, so quickly, we don't even aware of it's happening. So think about it. What does it take for a seed to germinate? Well, we all would know it takes the seed. You've got to have a seed. You need water, you need temperature, you need sunlight, warmth, time. What does it take for ill feelings to germinate? Think about that. There's a seed. It's just a word, or it's an action, or it's just a passing thought somebody had that they said. Just a simple little seed. Can be as tiny as some of those seeds you plant in your garden that you can't find, and then could be as big as like a sunflower seed. Seems huge. Doesn't have to be much. It's just the presence of that, some little word somebody said, some little thing somebody just off the cuff mentioned or did, and boy, that's the seed that's in your heart. And then you think about it, then you think about it again, and then you reconsider it, and then you wonder, well, what did they really mean by that? And about that time, your heart starts getting involved. You start getting worked up. You start getting heated up, and that's not fair. It's not fair that they could say that, and it is. I also made up something years ago. It's called NIMBY, N-I-M-B-Y, not in my backyard. That's what a lot of us, we get all defensive and say, well, that can happen to that person, but not in my backyard. It's not going to happen to me. And we get so focused and so caught up and so worked up. That's when the seed and that little word said starts baking in our head. And it gets to where it's kind of like if you didn't turn the timer on and you were making cookies and they're hockey pucks. We can overbake thoughts in our head, and that's when we start really getting worked up, because we've let that seed germinate and build up and get some temperature to it, and it sits in our mind. So how do we know if we have a seed of anger, and what do we do about it? Well, there's a lot of different things in life. If you want to lose weight, you're going to exercise and change how you eat. You are going to practice something. You're going to be intentional. If you have a pool, we used to have a pool and we get green algae in it. We had to add chemicals and we had to be very diligent. We had to do something to get the chemical in and measure out and all these litmus tests, and I hated that. But that's how it kept the algae from growing. Well, if we want to lose hate, then we have to practice something. We have to be intentional to practice something, because otherwise hate will take over us. So finding balance in our hearts to keep the seeds from turning to hatred is all different for all of us. One of the things I think we need to do is sometimes talk it over with other people. This really bothered me, what this person said. Go to that person. Did you mean what you said? I know with our kids when they were little, we'd tell them something and then we'd say, okay, now I want you to repeat back to me what I said. And a lot of times what they repeated back was not what we meant to say, but that's what they heard. Sometimes keeping that seed of anger from growing is simply by clarifying what did you mean, what did I say, what did I think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, I was upset. It's just talking it over with other people. And passing it through your mind often is another thing. Now I said passing, not letting it sit in your mind. You think about it, you deal with it, you go on with it. It'll come back in, let it go through your mind. Don't let it sit and fester. And avoid situations that are going to cause problems. You know people that you just don't get along with very well? Avoid them. And I know the Bible says that if at all possible, live with peace with everyone. And it's like, yeah, but there's some people that it's not possible. Don't put yourself in situations where you know you're going to get upset and frustrated and angry with people. And plan a strategy. How am I going to get out of a situation? If nothing else, just how am I going to keep my mouth shut and wait till a time where I can ask myself to be dismissed? You have to have strategies to win a war. You have to have strategies to win a football game or a baseball game. And you have to have a game plan. We'll have a game plan before you need a game plan. Otherwise, we get caught and we're not sure what to do or say, and we sometimes, almost all the time, say the wrong thing. So anger is one letter from danger. Think about that. Anger is one letter from danger. It's a D. And Ephesians 4:27 talks about don't give the devil, who is leading us into danger all the time, don't give him a foothold. Don't give him even a tiny crevasse in your heart to boost himself up. So how do you prevent something from getting a toehold or a foothold? A lot of it is being intentional and being focused and knowing what you trip over and being sure that you have the right shoes, you know where your footing is, you have a flashlight. Those are all ways we don't trip outside in the dark. It's the same way spiritually. Know what is going to bother you and make sure that you have the prayer life, the Bible study, the friends to surround you that are going to help you keep from letting something get a toehold in your life. But the other thing I think is we get offended a lot. We get bent out of shape. We get our panties up in a wad, like my grandma would say. We get troubled. Why do we get troubled? Because something didn't go our way. I think about a toddler, and they can go from angelic to a little sinner very, very quickly. They didn't get their own way. And as adults, we maybe mask it a little better, but probably not really. We don't get our own way, and that starts seething. It's not soothing, seething inside our heart. And then we make it be bigger than what it is, simply because we didn't get our way and we got, offended. So how can I make a difference in my response when I'm offended? How can I plan on my response when I am offended, because I'm going to get offended. It's going to happen. How can I plan my response to not kill the heart of someone else, to not kill the dreams of someone else, to not attack them verbally, which words can kill as much as the physical action of killing. And the words stay forever. You never forget. But then there's another question. How can I make a difference in my non-response? If you remember, go back to middle school years and kids rolling their eyes or a child just standing there looking at you, no response. That's how we need to be sometimes when we're offended. Just don't respond. Don't engage. Don't go there. And then later, if you choose, and after everything's calmed down, if you choose to want to go back and to have a talk about it, the emotions aren't there. But we can make a difference in not responding, in simply not responding. Jesus did that a lot. And you often wonder, what was he writing when he bent down and wrote in the sand? Maybe he wasn't writing anything. Maybe he was just choosing to not respond. And that bothers some people more than anything else. Just talk to me, just talk to me. No, I just need to not. So if we go back to Genesis, there's something that happens when we are angry enough to murder in our words or in our actions or in our thoughts, because basically what Jesus is getting at is your thoughts are just as important as anything else. You can have murder in your mind and have a smile and look like an angel on the outside. And Jesus was saying, we're going to extend murder to not just the physical act, which most of us would say, okay, I've never done that, I'm fine. No, what about your heart? How have you murdered someone in your heart? And what do we need to do to change the internal anger that we have a mask on the outside? So in Genesis, we see that Cain and Abel were doing their sacrifices, and Cain brought a portion, and so did Abel. And the offering, God looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but not on Cain and his offering. He did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. There was no mistake in it that Cain had a problem. And Cain was mad. And his anger led him to kill his brother. He couldn't hide it from God. And we often, most of the time, we can't hide true anger from our countenance. It shows. Little kids can't hide it at all. We do get better when we're older. But it's really interesting because the thing that bothers us the most about other people is usually the thing we struggle about on the inside and we fear. So when we go down later, Cain said to the Lord in verse 13, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you're driving me from the land. I will be hidden in your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. It's interesting, the very thing that he did to his brother, he now feared other people would do to him. And oftentimes, that's what we really struggle with, is the things we struggle with inside, we find fault with other people about. So in the Hebrew, murder is a division, and in the Hebrew, there's three words that make up the word murder, and one is meaning head, and one is meaning to lay down on one side, and then the other one means to fence or to separate. God hated division, and death is a division. It is taking someone's life, dividing them from life. We didn't create it. There's a really good story that this man told about this potter. He made a little coffee cup, and he worked on it, and he set it over and on the counter, and he said, the man who created it, he created it. So if he didn't like it, he could go pick it up and smash it. It didn't matter. He created it. But now somebody is sitting across the room doing their something else, whether it's pottery or a cup or a bowl, looks over and sees that coffee cup, and he walks over and picks it up and smashes it. He didn't have the right to do that. It was not his creation. Only the Creator has control over his creation. Anyone else that takes the control from the Creator and takes it into their own hands to destroy, that's wrong. And life is in the blood. The word Adam means divine blood. And when we use division in any way, shape, or form, whether it's murder, whether it's angry words, whether it's cutting someone off, whether it's eliminating a friendship, we are killing a relationship. And we are made in the image of God. So we need to be very careful how we treat other images of God, that we treat them with respect as we honor our parents, as we honor living things, but not to kill who they are with our words, with our thoughts, with our gossip, with our talk, with our actions, but to honor them because they are made in the image of the Creator. Most of us will say, I probably will never be convicted of murder, but I've been angry. I've been very mad at someone and just ignored them and was mean to them. That's what I think Jesus was getting at in the New Testament, and I think that's what God was getting at in the Old Testament. He wasn't just saying, killing is to take a life. There's times when accidents happen. There's times when killing needs to happen just with a culture. But murder is taking a life that's malicious and evil, and God didn't do that. So his character is to create life. So it is not up to us to take life. So it gives us things to think about, gives us a lot to think about. One of the things that's kind of interesting is when you're planting seeds in a garden, you put fertilizer on it. And the fertilizer helps it grow. What are you fertilizing in your heart that may grow hate? Are you focusing on the good in people, or are you focusing on finding fault? Are you focusing on being an encourager, or are you being critical? Are you hanging with people who encourage you to be kind, loving, and love others as that create God's character in us would signify? Because that was Jesus' whole point living on earth, was to deepen the intent of God's character, which is what the 10 Commandments are. And it's up to us to live to honor that. Have a good one.